Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. I'm Tobano Vumendaba.
And I am Violeta Samani.
Well, namhlanje ke, as usual, we are bringing you your lovely show, which is called Refining Perspectives. Well, as you can see, I'm not alone. I'm with a new face, about that face that brings light into the room. Who I have with me is Chilo Violeto Sabani. Today we're going to be having an interesting conversation. We're going to be talking about post-pandemic reason.
Yeah.
Going into what are some of the things that we should be changing? What are some of the habits that we should be adapting after this pandemic passes?
Yeah.
So, Nambugela, I want you to call your friends, your family, everyone, to come to the round table, because Refining Perspectives is back again with another episode.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Refining Perspectives. Well, Namhlanje, what are we talking about?
So today, Tobbs, we're talking about post-pandemic reason, right? And this is all about just, as you said when we were introducing the topic, that it speaks a lot to adaptability and what kind of shift that has to happen in our mentality, and not only just for that, but also just our perception as well. Right now that everything has happened and everything has played out, and we can still see that things are still playing out. All of us are still uncertain about a lot of things, but in this moment, what is the right way for us to be perceiving, and what does that mean for us, and also how can we weigh the amount of work that we need to put in ourselves in order to make sure that not only do we survive this season, but whatever it is that we create in this space is something that is anything that actually can be sustainable for our lives, right? So post-pandemic reason is basically just about how do we adapt to the shift, because we can't shy away from the fact that the pandemic has changed everything. It has changed life as we see it. It has changed so many different areas of our lives,
even how we do things.
Exactly. So what does that truly mean for us? What kind of people do we need to be in the face of survival? What does that mean for us? So that is what post-pandemic reason is like. How are we thinking, now that we've had this incredible shift that has just, changed the entire perspective of our lives?
Wow. And I actually think that it's quite an interesting topic to have, and an interesting conversation to have, because I don't think we've actually took time to ask the question that you're asking. But okay, fine, guys. Let's understand one thing. What has happened, it's unprecedented. In fact, it has happened before, but exactly. And we'd never envisioned that something like this would ever happen, where the whole world goes into a standstill and the whole world faces the same hard knock, because families were knocked, people's livelihood were everything has changed. And I don't think we have, done ourselves much grace and reflect about what does this really mean. I was actually having a conversation with a friend of mine, I think just yesterday, and I was saying to him, because we were chatting, and later on I think to myself, ever since it was the new year, and I'm like, I send him a message and I say compliments of the season, and he's like, yo, and happy new year. I did not even occur to me that it's the new year, because things are still moving their trajectory from the past year. So I really think that we need to really sit down with ourselves and ask about it in land. But the question again that I'm going to ask you, where do we start? Because it has shifted a lot of things.
Exactly.
Everything, as I said, families, you know, livelihood, economy, everything has changed.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's always a good place to begin within yourself.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's always good to begin with, you know, a great deal of self-introspection, right? Finding, you know, within yourself the strength to face yourself. Because I think that, you know, what, you know, all of this has done is that it has also put us in such a vulnerable position, you know, it has forced us to really face ourselves, to look at yourself and ask yourselves those questions.
And the truth is, we don't like that.
We don't like that. We don't like being in that vulnerable moment because that usually requires us to change. And that usually requires us to work, right?
It's not easy to change.
And it's not easy. It's not something that you can do overnight. So I do think that, you know, the most fundamental part of trying to figure out a way forward is starting to look within yourself. How has this affected you? Be honest to yourself about that. How has this affected me? How deeply has it affected me? Right? How much of myself, you know, has it taken? Because we can't shy away from the fact that, you know, there are people that have lost their entire livelihoods. They've lost family members, they've lost friends, they've lost close people, and not only that, but even, you know, people's jobs, you know, everything, you know, as we know it has changed.
Has collapsed.
So you can't go 10 steps forward without taking a moment and really looking within yourself, because that's the only time that you can actually realize that, you know what, I have been really shook, and I have been really shook in A, B, C, D areas of my life. So in me saying I'm moving forward, I have to first pick up the pieces in those areas, because what it has done also, it has left us with so much uncertainty about our lives, about our goals. Because I was talking to a friend as well, talking about, you know, some of the things that I wanted to do in 2020, and I realized that, you know, some of the things that I wanted to do, I actually only imagined them happening in the framework of a normal world. And now it's like, I still have goals, you know, but now it's like the normal is different. You know, the normal has changed the definition.
So there's some shifting.
Exactly. So in this new normal, you know, how do I innovate? Like, how do I make sure that I'm innovative about my goals? How do I still pursue those things that I wanted to do in the new normal? So because you can see that it will take that much.
That introspection, that time with yourself. Because as you are talking about the need for you to now reflect on your goals and think about how can you innovate because of the new normal. Because the truth is, if you don't do that, you might apply solutions to a problem that has now shifted and changed.
Exactly.
You might now say, I'm pursuing this goal and wonder, why am I not achieving it? Because I thought, and the thing is, things have shifted. And when you are still applying the same methodology to what has now shifted, and so really it is required of us to sit down with myself and say, this is what I was planning to do, and this is how I was planning to do it, and I know this is how I'm going to execute it. But now under the new norm, there's a new shift, there's a big shift. And you know, Navi, what we always try to do even here on Refining Perspectives, it is to kind of put a microscope into even the problem. And I think now what we are faced, we were actually talking about this before we shot. For me personally, I think we have a missed opportunity in this pandemic. And that missed opportunity for me, it is understanding the brevity of life, which will therefore then force us to actually with ourselves and be faced with ourselves and go, let's make those difficult decisions that will not necessarily pay off immediately, but will pay off long term and will allow us to leave a legacy. About someone who has done something that is positive. So as much as we keep on losing people, I feel as if we still are not aware of the brevity of life. That literally you can have someone next to you today, and then the next day you admit in hospital. Then later on that day, he has left us.
And that is a traumatic experience. You know what I'm saying? And I think that, you know, it's also kind of just opened for us this window of gratitude as well. You know, I think that there's also another way of actually just honoring each and every day and making sure that, you know, whatever you put into a single day, you know, is really the best of what you can do. Because it has, because when I say that it's opened a window for us to just have more gratitude. Is that you now realize that, you know, I could have lost my life.
Today,
I could not
moment.
be here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Anything could have happened to me. So now it means that I really need to just put in the work that in all the areas of my life in order for me to become the person who I know I'm supposed to be. You know? So I think that that's another way of looking at it as well. You know, operating from a place of gratitude. I think that's sometimes where we miss our internal shift. You know, sometimes we know that we realize that we need to change certain areas, but because we think we need to do that just for ourselves, we don't realize that we really need to do that for also the impact that we are intended to have with our lives on other people's lives as well.
Wow.
You know,
one person once said, as we are going to take the break, that there is someone who is waiting for what you are called to do.
Yeah.
So if you think about it like that, really it shifts your mind.
Yeah.
You are no longer now living and doing things just for your own comfort and the peace of mind. But you understand that I've been graced, and let me tell you about gratitude.
Yeah.
Man, and for another day, and someone literally did not get it. I could have passed away any moment, but I got the day. And I was actually laughing when you were talking about how we really need to work with that mindset. But I'm thankful I could have not had this day, because I'm thinking about what you always laugh at me. We need to be intentional.
Yeah.
We need to be intentional, because there's nothing that beats that in such a time that we are living in. Well, Mbugele Kai, we're going to take a short ad break, and when we come back, we're going to be delving more into this topic and actually how we can actually shift our minds. And even though it's a difficult position, this is for Manasiko Yongoku, but we can be able to make good out of it.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
please do stay tuned. We'll be right back after this.
In a world full of so much information, do you know what really shapes your ideas? Join us on Refining Perspectives Exclusive, where we discuss all things leadership with Puhlali Buzani, as well as myself, Lebu Mahlalela, every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. on Radio 537, and available on podcast through Google, Apple, and Spotify. See you there.
Hello and welcome back. You're still watching Refining Perspectives. Well, before the break, we were talking about some of, the shifts that need to happen in our minds. And one of the things that you touched on is the fact that we need to be really grateful and approach life from that position of being grateful and therefore being intentional about everything that we do. Now, for someone that is watching at home who's like, okay guys, I hear you and I hear you very well, but you're talking about being grateful, and I'm stuck and I'm feeling as if and deny a sense of anxiety because I've lost people, I've lost my family members. Where do we start? What do I do? And there's something that you said as you can freely interject in that, and you talked about the importance of starting within. And for me personally, I think that is the great starting point. Start within, reflect, and look at yourself. Where are you? Where now? And when you are able to do that, then you can be able now to move on to the external things. Because once you secure yourself internally, then everything else that you do externally will come from a place of security. Wow.
Absolutely, Tops. Because, I think also, still speaking, I'm under the notion of self-introspection is that most of the time we look at it rather as a way that we need to look at ourselves and look at what it is that we need to change. But most of the time we don't look at it in the sense that what we're actually doing when we self-introspect is that we're actually weighing the amount of work that we need to put in our inner man, right? Because I think that we should shift from thinking that that change is only external and materialistic. That I was supposed to be ABCD 5 years ago and I'm not, and right now I need to work, I need to do but understand that you are exactly where you need to be right now.
Exactly.
But what you need is to just bring yourself closer to the person that you believe that you're supposed to be. You know what I'm saying?
Meaning the real shift, the external shift, and even how you can now start to reevaluate even your goals and everything is secondary.
Exactly.
First, it's within.
Exactly.
You reflect on yourself, but am I in the right position? Do I have the right habits that I'm supposed to be having? Is my mental state where it's supposed to be? So that you can then be able to move from there and then go, because one of the things that is better right now, especially even now it's January, many people are setting the New Year's resolutions and everything. This is the time where sometimes we look around and we try to say, we say, and you find out that we are becoming anxious. And the problem is that since we have externalized into those needs, now I'm going to start to set up goals and try to do things externally without first trying to understand no man, what has placed me here? And then what can I transform about myself? So that even if Uvi is 10 steps ahead of myself, my hustle, my grind, whatever that I'm doing, I'm at peace with it, and I know the I'm at pace, and I will get where I need to be.
Absolutely. I think also it's so important that we embrace that moment of being vulnerable, vulnerable to our truth, vulnerable enough to face ourselves, vulnerable enough, to also give ourselves grace as well. Give ourselves grace, in the sense that, yes, I probably made some mistakes. I probably, in the past, procrastinated a lot. But I think that, what each year also represents is another chance. It's another chance for you to start again. You know what I'm saying? So, don't get tired of starting over. Don't get tired of working on yourself. And don't get tired of getting up and just, doing what you believe. I think, also, at the core, of our anxiety is so much insecurity. And if anything has happened right now, is that we have been so naked with our insecurity. Our insecurity is everything that we were afraid of has happened. You know what I'm saying? Everything that we feared, losing ourselves, in a season, that has happened, us being in a moment where we're stripped of everything as we know it, that has happened. But now, I think that, it would be important for us to also realize that this also means that you now have nothing else to lose, so that should also be, another way of looking at it, that now that, all the worst has happened, but now I have another chance to actually change the trajectory of my life.
Wow. And while you are still talking about, we are at a point where we have nothing to lose. So we can't miss this opportunity where you find that, as you say, we have lost some of the things that we put our trust in. We lost all of them. Now, how about we start afresh and focus on what really matters? Focus on really developing ourselves. Focus on really building even our families, our relationships with our families. And that again starts with building a proper relationship with yourself. Stop that thing whereby we run away from moments that you talk about of introspection, because that is even the truth of who you are. You start to realize it, because if you have a wrong identity or a wrong perception of who you are. And you find yourself now, your relationships are always fast and loose because you don't understand why people perceive you like this, but when you have this perception of yourself, and all along you have a wrong self-perception of who you are.
I like that, Toms, because right now, if you just look at social media, you will find people talking so much about self-love, self-care, but people like to have a one-sided view of that, because a part of self-love is also looking into the toxic areas about yourself. It's not just you projecting a certain image of yourself or taking selfies and saying that is self-love. Self-love also has to do with you actually looking at yourself and saying that I actually need to brush off this, I need to change this. And I think also, most of the time we suffer from our own prideful intentions, our own prideful motives, to the extent that, it just creates this false facade of ourselves and of our lives. And with everything, the noise that is around us, the noise of social media, the pressure that we live under, I don't think there's another generation that has actually experienced the amount of pressure that we in our time live in. You know what I'm saying? But I think it also takes much of really, understanding yourself, as you say, in order for you to be able to rise above the noise and be absolutely secure in who you are.
Because all of these, social media, everything else, it actually exacerbates the problem that we have. But we have a wrong
and you're not saying that social media is entirely bad.
No, it's not. But you are saying that it has wrong. And this is what we should be wary of even when we go into social media. That's why it's very important when we go into those platforms, we actually secure about who we are and the intentions behind that. Because now you find that I'm a person who already has a wrong self-perception of who I am. And then there I can be able to paint who I am. You see, which now there's a problem, which I can actually paint the person that I want people to see of me, the self-perception that I have of myself, and I can completely hide. Then the real person that you are is still waiting for you when you come back home, when you sleep at night, and when you try to build relationships, because real relationships will expose the reality of who you are. So, in closing, what are some of the parting shots and maybe practical steps, maybe if I could say, that moving forward, what should we be doing? What should we be focusing on in such a time as this?
Weigh the amount of inner work that you need to do. Let go of your pride, because I think that's the biggest hindrance. Even in our gifts and talents and our vision and our pursuit of purpose. It's our pride, because it gives us a false image of what success looks like. Have the correct definition of success according to you, because the world has different definitions of success, and some of them may not apply to you. So personalize success. Ask yourself, what is success according to me? You know what I'm saying? Maybe for somebody else, painting pictures and selling those pictures abroad or whatever is their form of success, even if they never ever known by anyone. But for some people, success it comes up in different ways. Right? Also understand that success is not also just a destination, but it's also the journey. And it's the series of events that actually lead to that one moment where you actually realize that you are exactly where you wanted to be. And also, let go of your past accomplishments. You know what I'm saying? Because let go of your past accomplishments, right? Because I think sometimes we dwell too much of what we've conquered in the past that kind of blocks our view. We think that we cannot create more. We think that we cannot raise the bar from what we've done already.
Performance bang, we are trying to secure the win that we got.
Exactly. So it speaks again to Lendobana, success is not a destination but a journey. So you continuously create, you continuously reinvent yourself, right? And also, lastly, your goals, your vision, those are still valid. Even post-pandemic, even, in the new normal, they are still valid. The only thing that we need to do is be innovative, and look at different ways of how we actually look at what happened with event planners, right? COVID closed down everything and they were not supposed to host and have certain numbers. But what most people did is that they invested on spending more time learning, understanding Zoom, hosting webinars, doing those same things that they wanted to do, but also just doing them in a different way. Sometimes it just takes us, just applying a new perception altogether to what the new normal actually means and our place in that new normal.
Wow. Well, Mugileka, thank you so much. Well, you can expect another episode with the phenomenal lady Violeto Sabani next to me and myself. I'll be back with you next week, same time, same place. Goodbye.